Recent moves, this is how the CNN reported it, and this is what blows my shit completely away. Recent moves by the White House to publicly diminish the nation's top infectious disease expert amounts to a significant escalation as the Trump White House seeks to divert attention from their failure to contain the coronavirus and instead push the ape's call to reopen the country. That effort continued this morning when the ape retweeted a baseless bullshit claim by a game show host, the sickening, wasted, long over the hill, drunk Chuck Woolery. When Woolery said that, quote, everyone is lying, end quote, about the coronavirus, including the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. Chuck Woolery is a goddamn addicted freak. But there goes Trump. He's got the top infectious disease specialist probably on earth. But this filthy orange man decides to retweet and therefore validate for his followers, Chuck, can somebody get me a drink, Woolery? Oh, my God. And in a statement 2 days ago on Saturday, one White House official told CNN that, quote, several White House officials are concerned about the number of times Dr. Fauci has been wrong on things, end quote. And then, to show you that they're doing opposition research on Fauci, not on Biden, because there's no there on Biden, but they're going after Fauci now, opposition research. And this official provided a lengthy list of examples, citing Dr. Fauci's comments early in the pandemic and linking to past interviews. Now, the point, of course, oh Christ, I know I don't have to explain this to you, Truth Seeker. I understand that. But the point here, science is not exact. When you're dealing with this kind of science, when you're dealing with medicine, when you're dealing with epidemiology, when you're dealing with discovering how a virus operates, replicates, invades, you don't start with full and certain knowledge like you can with certain math. You don't start there. You start with theories and pathways, and it's a great puzzle you're trying to figure out. How an entity, a non-living yet powerful entity like a virus, how it operates, replicates, invades, makes people sick, and kills people. And in the course of doing that, what is true Monday may not be true on Tuesday because of more investigation and more discovery and more truth being revealed. Now, anyone who has ever worked in science or medicine or these various fields, especially around epidemiology, understands that as a given. You know, my 15-year-old daughter understands this. Not to use her as a marker for some kind of inexperience, but when you start investigating and examining, you start not from zero. You start from a minus position. Minus 50, minus 100, and you try to work your way out of that situation into a positive field of discovery, especially where it concerns a virus. But none of that is understandable. What I just said, if Trump were listening, he would say, what the fuck is he talking about? Nobody in Trump's inner circle of gangsters, including his screwed up family, they have no idea about this kind of stuff. So based on their stupidity and their ignorance, they're saying, well, Fauci said X about it, and it turned out that it's Y. See? Don't believe him. My God. So the list of examples, some of these scum in this murderous kindergarten that is Trump's inner circle that they put out, the bullet points, which did resemble Oppo research on a political opponent, included Fauci downplaying the virus early on and a quote from back in March. This is the middle of July. In March, when Fauci said this, quote, "People should not be walking around with masks," end quote, among other comments. Not included were previous statements from the Surgeon General urging people not to buy masks, or an acknowledgement of the president's own false claims and misstatements about the virus. And the Surgeon General of the United States, I feel sorry for that poor son of a bitch. Every time he stands out there, you know he's looking around to see if Trump is looking over his shoulder with some kind of a stick to start beating him around the head and shoulders. It's just so difficult to try to comprehend where we are. Fauci was contacted by CNN this morning for comment. He didn't return the call, according to CNN. But at times, Fauci has openly disagreed with Trump in a series of recent newspaper and radio interviews. And in particular, there was a recent interview with the Financial Times. And that was the one where Fauci said that he's not briefed the ape in weeks. And that prompted some geek shit in the White House to distribute the list of Fauci statements. That's according to some little scumsucker in the Trump White House who's familiar with the matter. Among other things, according to CNN, Fauci disputed Trump's claim that, remember that, 99% of coronavirus cases in the U.S. were totally harmless. Fauci said, obviously, that's not the case. And he drew a connection between his insistence on speaking the truth at all times. Fauci said the fact that he speaks the truth all the time, that has a direct correlation between his diminished television appearances, because the ape and the filth around him now don't want to include Fauci because Fauci speaks the truth and Trump is a dumb shit. And Trump will stand there and lie and quote a drunk like Chuck Woolery. Jesus God. So if Trump, even if he wanted, and this is usually his MO, if this orange ape wanted to try to get rid of Fauci, he couldn't. Fauci is the director of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases. That's a position he's held since 1984, since Reagan. And he's a member of what's called the Senior Executive Service. Never heard of it, but that's what it says here. And since he is a member of that, Fauci could only be fired for cause and only by a direct supervisor, like HHS Secretary Alex Azar, another loser, or the National Institute of Health Director Dr. Francis Collins, which I don't think Dr. Collins would do that. Now, Trump could instruct Azar to fire Fauci, and he could come up with bullshit cause like Trump is famous for doing, but that would likely be subject to a lengthy process that Fauci could appeal. And officials said they believed it highly unlikely that the ape would take that step. And these scum around Trump say that the ape has not voiced a desire to do that at this point. But you know it's coming, don't you? The first step when the ape decides to go after somebody are the slimy, smarmy, shitty little remarks that he and his inner circle of 5-year-olds come up with. And it's already begun where it concerns Fauci. Oh, my God. The main, and this is true, and you know it's true, aside from the regulatory hurdles that Trump would have to jump over to get rid of Fauci, we know the real reason is because it would be politically damaging to the ape if he tried to remove Fauci, because Fauci is considered credible by such a high number of Americans and by members of Congress. And that's something that Trump will never have. Ever. Ever. And then CNN reports that another person familiar with this whole mess has said the rare in-person meeting between Trump and Fauci are not awkward and don't involve raised voices. But Trump has complained about Fauci privately. That's what Trump does. Trump is a sneaking, devious little cowardly prick. We all know that. We all know what Trump is. But sources close to the ape will freely admit that the irritation is over the good press Fauci has received, and Trump doesn't get that. And then you have this. This is how CNN reports it. Trump's irritation with Fauci has also at times been encouraged by Peter Navarro, Trump's trade advisor, who has repeatedly blamed Fauci for doubting the efficacy of hydroxychloroquine. Navarro once told Fauci he would be personally responsible if it was later shown that hydroxychloroquine worked to treat coronavirus, despite multiple studies that say it doesn't. In fact, it causes heart disease. Where's Peter Navarro on that? That's another one of these filthy, stinking Trump blowjob experts who will do anything to keep their knee pads. Anything. One senior administration official told CNN that some officials within the White House do not trust Fauci. Listen to this. According to this source, those officials think Fauci doesn't have the best interests of the president, pointing to some of Fauci's interviews. Other administration officials have told CNN that while they have disagreements with Fauci's methods, they don't doubt his motives, and that his only concern was public health. See, Trump and Peter Navarro and this filthy pig married to Trump's bitch daughter and the Nazi Jew, Stephen Miller, all these lowlifes that cluster around this monster. They don't give a damn about public health. They don't give a damn about anything that normal people associate themselves with when they're in positions of this kind of power for the good. These are greedy, filthy, low-life son of a bitches who would have worked fine, even Stephen Miller, the Nazi Jew, in the German High Command in the 1930s in Germany. This is who they are. Or Stalin in the 30s. This is who they are.
Hi, Truth Seekers. Mike Malloy here. As you know, we've switched formats and are now broadcast exclusively on the Progressive Voices Network. So that means you get fewer program interruptions, no corporate commercials, and lots of profanity. But our format change also means some of our radio listeners no longer hear the program. It's been a while since I mentioned our podcasts, so you may have forgotten that there is a way to listen to this program anytime you need a good dose of screaming. Visit MikeMalloy.com and subscribe to our podcasts. You have your choice. You can listen to the ranting with the audio podcast or listen and watch me lose control with a video podcast subscription. As a podcast subscriber, you can download the program to your mobile device and take me with you wherever you go. And if you have a friend who needs a dose of truth-seeking, you can give a gift subscription as well. That's MikeMalloy.com, and never miss a minute of the uncensored fun and frivolity.